So I've been wanting to DIY a Rapunzel dress for probably a few years now, and when I came across this huge piece of shiny purple fabric at the thrift store for like, I think it was like $2.50, $3, I figured it was probably time. This year was gonna be the year, and here we are. We're doing it. Rapunzel is probably, I think she's my favorite Disney princess. I think that's why I wanted to make this costume. Quick disclaimer, this room is in utter disarray, and if you see mess in the background, please ignore it. But otherwise, we're gonna start with the skirt. I'm gonna do my best to get all the details in, but it is definitely gonna be more geared towards like a Halloween costume versus a cosplay. But if you're making a cosplay, you can definitely use this as a guide. Okay, so firstly, we're gonna need a couple of measurements. I actually already took mine last night so that I was prepared for this video, but you're gonna need your waist measurement as well as the length of the skirt that you know, how long you want your skirt to be. Just for reference, my waist measurement is 35 inches and I want my skirt length to be 30.5 inches. Now, I looked up this tutorial on Google on how to make a half circle skirt because I originally thought it would be fun to make a full circle skirt, but I didn't have enough fabric and I thought maybe that would be a little bit too full. Rapunzel's skirt kind of like flares out when she spins around, but I don't think it goes in a full circle. I think a half circle skirt will do just fine. What you want to do is take your waist measurement, divide it by 3.14. That will give you what this instructional thing that I read called a waist radius. Just write down the number and I will tell you what to do with it. My waist measurement was 35 inches. My waist radius is 11.25. And if you get an odd weird decimal number, just round up to the nearest quarter inch. So my skirt length was 30.5, so I'm going to add my waist radius to my skirt length. So my skirt radius is 41.25 inches. But you're gonna need those two measurements to make your skirt. And now we're gonna take things down to the floor, which things could get a little ugly, but bear with me. I know I'm gonna get a lot of questions of people asking me how many yards or how many meters of fabric you're gonna need for this. And obviously it depends on how big you need your skirt to be. And honestly, I don't know how big this section of fabric is because I just got it, it was already just cut from the thrift store, but I am guessing that this is 2 meters. Guessing. The fact of the matter is that you just need to make sure that your fabric is long enough if you measure from the corner. So my fabric is actually folded in half right now. So the fold is right here, and then down here is where it opens. That's important. Remember that. Measure from the top corner fold down to the bottom and just make sure that you've got enough room. I have like maybe 1 extra inch of room there, which is perfect because I do need to have a little bit extra to fold the seam in. You need to make sure you have the exact same amount of room on this side. I wanted my skirt length to be 30.5 inches and I had to add the skirt waist radius to that to get the entire length of fabric that I'm gonna need. So that brings me to 41.5 inches. So I just made sure I have enough that way. I also have enough this way. To start creating the skirt, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna be measuring after these little dots because I don't want these dots on my skirt. So we're gonna just measure after that. What you wanna do is take your measuring tape or a ruler, something, you know, something straight with a measurement on it. And I'm going to mark off my waist radius. Mine was 11.25. I'm gonna use chalk because it's easy to wash off or whatever later. And then what you wanna do is make sure you leave this point of your ruler in the same spot and just pull it around in a circle. If you don't have chalk, you can use a pen. It's just that it's good to use like chalk because it stays on like while you're doing this stuff, but you can wash it off later. And there we go. This is the top of the skirt. Now we're gonna do that again with the longer measurement. And I cannot remember if I said this already, but when you're drawing on your fabric, make sure that it's inside out. So this part is going to be on the inside of the skirt, and this nice shiny bit, that's going to be on the outside. So you want all your marks to be on the inside of your fabric. Yeah, I've made the mistake of doing that by accident before, and not good, not good. Okay, so this is where it gets a little bit harder, because now we have to do it with this being long, and where this is kind of flimsy, it can be a little bit annoying, not gonna lie, but you know, you kind of just gotta Give it your best shot. I'm also just gonna mark off an inch above, well, maybe half an inch. Half an inch above where I have my line so that I know how much extra I need to cut for the seam allowance. Because if I don't cut any extra, my skirt is gonna end up being shorter than I want it to be, which, you know, it's not the end of the world, but we're gonna try our best to get the skirt the length that I would like. Okay, so next I'm gonna put my fancy cutting thing under here, and I'm just going to cut on the outside line. You can use scissors, but honestly, rotary cutters are where it's at. Ta-da! And then do the same to the bottom. So believe it or not, I'm actually almost done with the basic construction of the skirt. I'm gonna get like the basics down, and then we're gonna go back and add the details like the painting and the lace and all the fun stuff. But we're just gonna do the basic construction of everything first, and then we get to the fun stuff. So now basically all I'm gonna do is cut out a long strip of fabric, probably about 5 inches tall, and then the length is going to be your waist measurement. Not your waist radius measurement, your actual waist measurement, because this is going to be the waistband. Once we've cut this out, all we have to do is sew it onto the top, add the zipper, sew it down the side, sew the bottom up, and the skirt is done. But if you're using stretchy fabric, you can use an elastic waistband, you can use buttons, you can secure the top of your skirt however you see fit, but since my material is so thick and so like stiff, I think that really the only good option here for me is to use a zipper, but you can close your skirt however you so please. Or you can even buy a dress, cut the skirt off, and like just use the skirt off the dress, and then you're good. There's so many ways to make these costumes, it's great. So we do need to remember to leave room for the seam allowance. Always, big mistake if you don't. So I have my waist measurement plus about 2 inches. So this is how long my waistband is gonna be so it can wrap around my waist. Makes sense, I hope. So I'm just gonna mark that off. And then I lied before, I said to make this about 5 inches tall, but I'm actually only going to do 3. I don't want my waistband to be super thick, so that leaves me an inch for the waistband so it can fold over, as well as half an inch on each side to fold in for the seam allowance. Then I'm just going to cut it down my chalk line, and we will have our waistband. So as much as I would love to just not bother with ironing anything, the more I do sewing, the more I feel obligated to do things the correct way. And in all honesty, like, ironing these things does make it easier to sew. It just takes up more time and kind of sucks, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So here we go. We have the waistband that I just cut out. What I'm gonna do is fold the edge on each side in. I'm going to measure it and make sure that it comes in about 1 inch and iron it down. Then I'm going to fold the whole waist thing in half and iron it flat so that we have a nice waistband to work with, and we won't have to worry about so much pinning and figuring things out when I actually put it on the skirt. Okay, now that I have my nicely ironed waistband, I am going to go ahead. So actually, what I think I'm gonna do, I'm gonna fold this little end piece in. I should have ironed that too, but I wasn't thinking. I'm gonna sandwich the skirt inside of the waistband and pin it down. So make it a little funky, but don't worry about it. And I am leaving a little bit of extra so that I can fold this over when I sew the zipper on. Now there's a part of me that thinks I should put the zipper on first. Hold on. I'm going to quickly think this through and then I will reconvene with you. So I did go ahead and sew on the zipper. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, zippers are always the hardest part personally for me. My head just has a hard time wrapping around them sometimes. So I didn't show you how I put on the zipper because I promise you, you would have ended up way more confused than you would have been informed. So I'll leave a couple of links down below for some really good zipper tutorials that you can follow, and then you can just come back here and we will continue on. But in case you're wondering, this is what my zipper looks like. I didn't have a hidden zipper. I just used a regular, just a regular zipper. I got a pack of these zippers from the dollar store, which are perfect for making costumes and stuff. So I did what is called a lapped zipper. I think that's what it's called anyway. Because I didn't have a hidden zipper, I didn't want this like white zipper to be like exposed. So I just did this like overlap of fabric on top of it so that you can't really see it when I'm wearing it. Obviously you can see this little stitching here, but I don't know, I feel like it's less noticeable than a white zipper because I didn't have a purple zipper. It opens just like this. So now is when I'm going to do what I said I was going to do in the last clip, put the waistband on. So basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to fold the edges in ever so slightly, and then I'm going to sandwich the top of the fabric inside of this waistband, pin it all the way around, and then I'm just gonna sew it. And then at the very end, you should have a little tiny bit of overlap on your waistband. I'm just gonna sew a couple of snaps there so that it closes at the top, and then all there will be left to do for the sewing portion of the skirt is just to sew the hem on the bottom. I got this pack of snaps from the thrift store for 50 cents, which is a pretty good deal. So I'm just gonna use 2 of these. And in the back, right where this little flap overlaps, I am just going to pull it so that it completely covers the zipper, and sew my snaps on the inside right here basically. Now I do have to hand sew these because I don't even know if there's a way to do these without hand sewing them, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. So now that the basic construction of the skirt is finished, I know that I didn't do any painting, but we're gonna save that for last because that's kind of like the fun little detail parts. But for now, we're gonna move on to sewing the top. So for the top, I have this shirt that has a similar like kind of shape that I would like for the corset. It has like this like square neck, and this shirt is honestly a little bit tight for me, so if it was unbuttoned and separated a little bit, it gives like the perfect amount for there to be a little insert in the middle as well as the ties. So what I did was I laid this out on wrapping paper and I cut out every section that made up the shirt. So this is the back section. I did it in like a half piece so that I could just fold the fabric in half. But basically, you know, it just like follows the lines of the shirt. So I have every section that I need for that, but this shirt is actually a little bit short for the corset that I want to make. So I did add a few extra inches on the bottom of each piece. I originally was hoping to make this costume from all thrift store materials, but unfortunately I couldn't find anything that would work for the top. But my fabric store is sadly closing, so they did have like a pretty good sale. So I got this purple fabric for 50% off. So it was about $6 for a meter, and I think a meter is going to be honestly more than I need. It's not super shiny, but it's like the color's good and it's good enough for a Halloween costume, you know what I mean? And the thing is, it's really, really like flimsy, like it's really, you know, it's not stiff like a corset should be. So I do have this pink lining fabric that I got at the thrift store. I got this pile of fabric like this tall for 99 cents at the thrift store with a bunch of different fabrics folded up, and this was just part of it. So I think I'm going to use some of this to just like thicken it up, just like a little bit, you know, so it has a little bit of structure. And honestly, I may even go so far as to use some of the extra purple fabric from the skirt, because that fabric is like really stiff. It'd be really perfect. But the thing is, I don't think I have enough to make the full corset top. So we'll see about that. But the reason why I didn't use the same fabric for the top as I did for the skirt is because if you look at Rapunzel's dress, it actually is a little bit of a different color. And I don't know, I wanted to be picky about that, I guess. So this is what we're working with. I'm gonna put it on the floor. I'm gonna trace out all the sections and away we shall go. So to make this go as easy as I possibly can, I'm going to lay the lining fabric down first. Probably should iron it, but I'm not going to be that picky. I'm going to lay my purple fabric. Then I'm just going to take my pieces, trace them on, pin them, cut them. You get the idea. These are all of the pieces that I need for the top, aside from the sleeves. I haven't done the sleeves yet, so just so we're clear, there's no sleeves involved here. I did go ahead and cut out some of the dark purple fabric for some of the pieces, so let's just kind of go through what we have here so nobody gets confused, aka myself. Okay, so this is my back piece. I didn't reinforce the back pieces with the third layer because they're not really that important, honestly. I'm gonna have a long wig on, so who's really gonna see that much of it anyway? So I have the like side pieces that will like attach right here. So I have one for this side, one for that side, 2 layers of each. I have the same thing for the front. So this is the side pieces for the front. So I have 3 layers of each side. This is the middle of the front, so I have 3 layers of each of those. Basically it looks like this, but just like cut in half because it won't be connected in the front. And then since it is like a lace up, I do have 3 layers of this panel that's going to go right in between the 2 lace up front pieces. Now here comes the fun part where I have to pin and sew all of this together. So I do apologize if this gets really confusing because honestly it is a little bit overwhelming, like when you are dealing with so many different pieces. Because I don't want any of the seams poking me from the inside of the dress, I'm going to basically sew 2 tops, okay? Stay with me. 2 tops, one is going to be the pink inner layer, one is going to be the purple outer layer. And then I will sew them together so that the seams face each other and it will all make sense in time, I promise you. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and sew all of this stuff together. If you don't have a shirt like mine to work from, this may be a little bit more complicated for you. I definitely would use a reference of some type of shirt at least. Even if you have like a t-shirt that you want to use as a reference, and you can kind of just modify it, so make the square like neckline, you know, just use whatever you have to create your pattern. That way you won't have to be coming up with your own pattern with no reference point, because I promise you that is not fun. At least for me anyways. I'm gonna start with the back, I think, because the back has way less pieces. Chalk is definitely going to get everywhere. Honestly, this is probably one of the best parts, when you can finally see the madness start turning into something that you can tell what it is. So yeah, so I basically have my 2 side pieces. This is going to be the panel that goes underneath of these, so these are going to like overlap like right here, and then we'll have the ties going around there, and then we have the back piece, and then of course naturally they will attach here and then on the sides. It's starting to look like a shirt, right? Okay, so far everything is only been pinned, so I'm gonna go ahead and sew up, like as you can tell, like these pieces right here. I'm gonna sew that up, and obviously like the ones on the inside. Thank God, cutting out these pieces literally took like 2 hours. So I have gone ahead and pinned all of my pieces to get, okay, one just fell. I've pinned all my pieces together so it makes kind of like a vest, like this. And we're gonna lace it up in the front. I cannot remember if I've already mentioned this, but I did cut out a panel that's going to go right in the middle. I must have mentioned this already. I don't remember. I've been filming this video for so many days. I don't even know if it's gonna get up by Halloween at this point. But yeah, so what I'm gonna do is I am going to basically leave all the seams open for now, except for the shoulder seams. Then we're gonna make the sleeves. You know, I feel like I have a lot of work to do, but like I also do feel like things are coming along. As you can tell, I did not line the back with the purple. I only lined the front pieces. So naturally, a puffed sleeve is a little bit more difficult, complicated to make than a regular sleeve. And of course, Rapunzel has puffed sleeves. So here we go. I'm gonna do my best to explain this, but I did actually have to look up how to make a puffed sleeve because I've never really made a puffed sleeve before, believe it or not. So I'm gonna link the reference that I'm using below in case I don't explain it very well, because I guarantee you I probably won't. I'm gonna take my little vesty thing here, And I have to actually, where I do have the sides pinned together, I do actually have to unpin them because I need my vest to lay flat in order to get the shape of the sleeve. See this curve that you see there? That is important. I'm gonna lay this inside out. So the first step to making a puffed sleeve is making a regular sleeve. So I'm just gonna draft a regular sleeve pattern. I want my sleeve say 7 inches long. I'm telling you guys, using gridded wrapping paper to draft patterns, game changer. I want my sleeve to be, don't want it to be super skin tight, so we'll go for like 14. So I'm just gonna mark off at the bottom here a nice straight line of how wide I want the bottom of my sleeve to be. Now, like I said, this is not the puffed sleeve, this is just like the regular sleeve. So sleeve shapes are really quite interesting, honestly, because the top part of the sleeve follows the curve of this sleeve, but once you get down to this curve, it kind of goes opposite. I'll draw it and show you what I mean. So your sleeve shape should look a little something like this. Now I'm going to cut this out and we're going to turn it into a puffed sleeve pattern. Okay, so I have marked off the middle line of my sleeve as well as 1.5 inches away, and I'm just going to cut along these lines. I don't know why I cut my sleeve out of the very middle of the wrapping paper. That was pretty dumb on my part. And I'm going to line up my pieces. So I don't want the sleeves to be like too outrageously puffy. So I'm gonna go ahead and line these up about 1 inch apart from each other. Like I said, using like the lined wrapping paper is an insanely, like, it makes it so easy. So I'm going to mark off this, like the little end parts of the sleeve. That's pretty much the only part of the sleeve that isn't going to change. The rest of the sleeve kind of is. I think by the time we get to the middle part here, we're gonna extend 1 inch that way and extend 1 inch at the top. This is gonna give it the extra length it needs to like actually puff out. Maybe we'll just do 1/2 inch at the top, because like I said, I don't want it to be like crazy puffed out, you know? And there we have it, a sleeve that looks humongous. I hope I didn't overestimate, and I hope the sleeve doesn't end up looking too humongous, but I'm gonna go ahead and cut this out. And there you have it, my puffed sleeve pattern. I'm gonna go ahead and just cut out 2 of these from my purple fabric. You've seen me cutting fabric before, you guys know the drill, so I'm just gonna go ahead and cut it out really quick. So I went ahead and I cut out the pieces for the sleeves, and I also went a little bit further than that as well. And I also cut out a bunch of strips out of a pink satin sheet that I got at the thrift store from a previous project. I had a ton left over, so I thought it was perfect for this. And I sewed it onto the sleeves. I know I didn't film any of this part just because it was really tedious and I just really needed to get it done. Yeah, I just cut out a bunch of 2-inch strips of pink, folded 1/2 inch underneath on each side, and sewed it down so that it looked like this, because she has pink stripes on her sleeves. If you don't feel like doing that, you can obviously just paint them on as well. I don't really know why I'm getting so much like puckering and weird wrinkly stuff. I might have to iron that down. Maybe it won't matter once the sleeve is puffed. But now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to stitch a really loose stitch across the top of the sleeve, not all the way down, just the very top of it, as well as the bottom. And then I'm going to pull the loose stitches so that it gathers a little bit and I get a little bit of a poof. So it'll be a little bit poofed on the top and a little bit poofed on the bottom. Hopefully look something like this. I'm gonna do that to both sleeves, then we're gonna attach them. And I am praying that I'm going to get this costume finished today. It is Wednesday. Halloween is on Saturday. Halloween's on Sunday, but the event that I am going to is on Saturday. Fingers crossed today's the day. Okay, so here we have, as you can see, my stitch. I pretty much went to the second last stripe, and if you take it's either the top or the bottom. Yeah, okay, mine is the top, depending on, I sewed mine upside down, so it might be the other way for you, but if you take the top string and just kind of pull it, you can kind of start gathering your fabric to make your cute little puffy freaking sleeve. Look how adorable that is. And then you do it to the bottom. It's just so much easier to do it this way than versus trying to like scrunch it up like while you're sewing it onto your shirt. And like, you know, it might need to be adjusted a little bit once I attach it to my shirt, but like, look at that. Freaking adorable. And now I'm gonna go ahead and attach it to my shirt. So now comes the fun part of attaching the sleeve to the top. I have my top inside out, and I'm going to flip my sleeve inside out. Now I may have gathered it too much, like more than what I allowed for, so I may have to break it up just a little bit. I like to start around the middle section and flip this like this and pin it like so. And essentially I'm just gonna go around the edges and continue pinning my sleeve on. Okay, so this is what it looks like all pinned on, and looking back at it now, I definitely could have gone, like I could have made the sleeve poofier if I had made it wider. So that's something that I definitely would have done, because it does have like, you know, it's got a little bit of poof here, but I feel like Rapunzel's are a little bit more poofier than that, but I still think it looks cute. So I'm gonna go ahead and just sew along the top curve of the arm. I'm gonna do it for the second one, and then we'll come back. We'll sew up the bottom of the arms as well as the side of the shirt. And man, we are getting so freaking close here. It is, I can't wait. Okay, so already I can definitely tell I'm pretty disappointed with how the sleeves turned out. I honestly should have made them like twice as big. They don't really look like puffed sleeves at all, in my opinion. So they're a little lacking in the puffiness, but it's far too late for me to remake sleeves, because it would just take too much time. So for anybody out there watching this, make your sleeves bigger than you think you need, because I thought this was gonna be enough for a good poof, and it's not even really a poof. Anyway, I'm just gonna have to move along with the process because time's a-wasting. Okay, so I'm going to lay my shirt on the table inside out and kind of match up where the ends of the sleeves meet. I'm gonna go ahead and pin that right there in the corner because we want that to be in the correct spot. And I'm just gonna pin the edge of the sleeve and all the way down. And because I have so many layers, this is particularly annoying, but it must be done. And now I'm just going to sew from here all the way to here. This will sew up the side as well as the bottom of the sleeve. And then I'm gonna do it to the other side. Okay, my sleeve is now ready to be cuffed. Now, sorry I'm not showing my face a whole lot right now. It's just because I'm just trying to motor through this and kind of get it done. So Rapunzel has these short sleeves, but she also has the long sleeves that come out underneath. I'm not actually gonna do the longer sleeve just because I think it looks cute without it, but also I just don't have the fabric and I couldn't find the fabric that would be good for the sleeve. So I'm just gonna go with short sleeves, and if I feel like, you know, if I ever wear this costume again for any reason, that's something that I can add on later. If you do want to do the full sleeve, I would just get a long sleeve shirt that's the right material and right color, cut the sleeve off and just sew it to the end of the cuff, because that's what I would be doing. But since that's not what I'm doing, I got this little tiny bias tape from the fabric store when I was there at the closing sale. I'm just gonna pray that my camera's focusing on the right thing. I'm just going to open it up and sandwich the seam right inside and then sew along here. So it's gonna go all the way around the bottom of the sleeve, and when it's sewn, it's gonna look like this one. How like professional is that, that I already have one finished. It's gonna look like this little baby on the end, which I think is a really nice way to finish off the sleeve. You can also do elastic. Honestly, elastic is probably even easier. You just stretch the elastic to your arm and sew it to the sleeve, and you've got your puff sleeve and it's nice and stretchy. I don't have elastic, so this is what I went for, but I think it looked really cute. Okay, so my space is an absolute disaster, but things are shaping up quite nicely. This is how she's looking. This is obviously the back. Sleeves turned out actually so much better than I originally thought. I was originally like, these sleeves are gonna suck, but they turned out okay. We are really getting into the final stuff here. The parts where I haven't sewn yet are so frayed, it is getting kind of crazy. So what I want to do is fold in the front seams and sew them down so that we have a nice clean line to work with. Oh, that's just gonna look so much better. I feel like once that part oh my gosh, we're so freaking close. It's crazy. I'm going to fold it over once and then fold it again like that. Sew it down and we should be good. Okay, and now that I have that done, things are looking nice. I do have to do a bit of touching up because that's kind of popping out a little bit there. This side turned out better. I trimmed off any excess that I had on my neckline that I had there for seam allowance because I won't be needing it anymore because I'm not going to be folding any seam allowances for the top because I'm going to be using the same stuff that I used for the edges of the sleeve, and I'm just going to sandwich the fabric inside. Might be kind of tough for this little end bit here because it's so thick, but I'm just going to sandwich everything in there and sew her down. I'm going to go all the way across the neckline, up the sleeve, across the back, up the sleeve, and across the front. Then all we will have left to do is to hem the bottom, fix up this little doodad, and then add the holes for the string. I cannot tell you how excited I am to be finished. Okay friends, firstly, please forgive me for the weird lighting right now. I'm kind of raising the sunlight here. I did kind of full speed ahead and finish the costume because I was worried I wasn't going to finish it in time. So I'm just going to quickly talk through what I did to finish it up, and then the final reveal is coming. In the last clips, I think I mentioned that I put the bias tape along the top, and I also did the same thing with the bottom. I also cropped the bottom of the shirt to be a good length for me. I think it's a little bit shorter than the one Rapunzel wears in the movie, but this looks a little bit better on my body shape, so I went with this. That's kind of what I love about costumes, is that you can kind of like interpret any costume in your own way, kind of like, you know, modify it a little bit if you want to. Then I went ahead and took some one-sided eyelets, and let me tell you, this was a freaking process. I basically had to cut each hole for these eyelets, push the eyelet through, and then use a hammer and the little tool that came with the eyelets and hammer them all so that the back of the eyelet would squish against the fabric and wouldn't come out. Next, I just lace it up with some more pink bias tape that I used to rim the top and the bottom. And finally, what I did was I hand stitched some lace to the very top and the very bottom. I could have used a sewing machine for this, but I didn't want another, as you can see, there's one line of stitching. I didn't want there to be another line of stitching, so I just hand sewed it to the inside of the shirt so that there was no stitching on the outside. I hope that made sense. And that is all I did to finish the shirt. For the little insert in the middle, I did the same thing that I did with the shirt. I added the pink trim to the top, as well as the bottom, as well as the lace. And really the only thing left that I have to do to finish this costume is to sew some snaps to here so that when I'm wearing it, it can snap onto the inside so that I know it's not going to fall out while I'm wearing it, because that would just be a disaster. And I also went ahead and painted the design on the front of the skirt. So I just took pink acrylic paint, a little bit of purple and blue as well, and freehanded the design that I drew on with chalk first. Her designs go in 2 lines down the front, but they also wrap around the back of the skirt along the bottom. I opted to not do the bottom for time constraint reasons because I thought this costume was going to take like maybe 2 days to complete, and here we are. I think I've been working on this for maybe 2.5, 3 weeks now. Halloween is in 2 days. I do apologize if this doesn't even make it to the internet before Halloween, but hopefully you can use it for future reference for next year or for any event that you might need a Rapunzel costume. So I'm gonna put this all on and it's time for the reveal. I haven't even tried it all on for myself yet, so I'm excited. So the verdict is, I'm freaking obsessed. I love it so much. The wig is a wig I got from Donna Love Hair several years ago. It's super long, it's like waist length long, and I just added a braid into it. I love how the skirt like flows. I think it's super cute. Can't wait to wear it tomorrow at the party, and Let me know in the comments if you guys want to be Rapunzel now for a costume at some point. Let me know if you try this. Let me know what you think of mine. And thank you so much for bearing through what is probably a long video of me costume making. Bye.